Welcome back to the Hockey North podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Luzot, joined by my good friend Brendan Palu. Brendan, how are you doing today?
Good. My weekend went pretty well. How about yours?
That's good to hear. Yeah, my weekend was pretty busy. We had three Caribou teams in action over the weekend. The Northern Capitals had their home opener hosting the Greater Vancouver Comets in Kin 2 Saturday and Sunday, and then the U17s had the Thompson Blazers in town where they split the weekend. And um, overall, you know, pretty good weekend for the boys. The girls unfortunately went 0-2. And then the U18s were on the road playing the U18 Thompson Blazers in Kamloops, and two pretty big convincing wins for the U18 Caribou Cougars there.
Yeah, for me, with the Spruce Kings Friday and Saturday, 5-4 loss on Friday was followed up by a 6-3 win on Saturday. Pretty dominant weekend from Ethan Montroy, the new player for uh, the Spruce Kings. 3 goals, 1 helper, also a goal in the loss on Friday, but pretty instant impact for Ethan Montroy, former Cornwall Colt. That's where he joined from in that game. So it's Spruce Kings get a split. You can make the argument that they could have or should have won both against Surrey, but it was right there. It was a bit of a crazy game on Saturday. Spruce Kings were down to 7 forwards at one point due to a variety of penalties and majors and misconducts. It was 2-2 at one point for, it was 2-0 Spruce Kings and 2-2 when Surrey tied it up. And then floodgates just sort of opened when Montroy and company took the game over and the Spruce Kings were able to pull out the 3-goal victory. But I also want to mention that Carter Wishart was also excellent in his best game as a Spruce King. No Ryder Green. Prince George product did not play in either game. Wishart, 49 stops on 52 Surrey shots.
Yeah, and it's good to see the Spruce Kings get a convincing win here at home. And in adding a new player like Montroy, I mean, they haven't played bad to start the year, as we've talked about before. Like, a few things that you'd want to change and improve up and down the lineup. But, that's the same for every other team, at the early stages of the season. But, how important do you think it is for this group to have a new spark in the lineup in Montroy?
Especially with a 4-game, 2-province, 5-day road trip coming up next weekend. Okotoks and Brooks. Then you hop on the Bucks from Brooks, play 2 games at the Showcase, play Alberni Valley and Black Falls out in Abbotsford. So, it's a pretty
Yeah.
huge deal to get that win, get that, you know, strike of confidence, if you will, in your team after losing 4 in a row. So,
Mhm.
I know it's only the 7th game of the season, but it's a pretty important victory, at least in terms of a morale standpoint.
Well, absolutely, right. And I mean, we've talked about it before. A big thing is momentum, and timing is a big part of that. And getting this win now and having that fresh spark in the lineup to carry that into this road trip and into some important games coming up for not just the organization but the players individually. It's a lot of good things to see here for the Spruce Kings in that regard.
Yeah, I also want to mention it was Lyndon Macco's 150th career BCHL game on Saturday. So congratulations to Lyndon, Vanderhoof product, Caribou Cougar graduate, longtime Spruce King. Nice to see him crack that milestone.
Yeah, and it's something special too for such a nice guy in Lyndon Macau, but for the fact that he is a northern guy that's, played here growing up, developed here, and then to be able to hit that milestone with the Spruce Kings is definitely, I think, a special feeling for a player that's grown up right around in our backyard.
Yeah, and it's just nice to have that pipeline, if you will, develop between the Caribou Cougars and the Prince George Spruce Kings to have these homegrown players stay at home.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm. Moving on, a lot of junior A action over the weekend. Quinnell River Rush splitting a pair of road games. 5-1 loss in Kamloops was followed up by a 7-6 win in overtime against the Chase Heat. Quesnel was down 3-1 early in that game, getting outshot 24-6. Wasn't till the third period where the play started to even out, but Quesnel getting a huge win on the road. Isaiah Baggery getting third goal of the season in that when he was named first star of the game. So a very good effort by him. Liam Richardson also dressing in that victory. Lyndon Hart, ditto for the River Rush as well. But a hat trick there for Baggery in that win. Dane Dietz also chipping in with the helper. So the Quesnel River Rush splitting a 2-game road trip over the weekend. Williams Lake did not play. We'll be heading up to Williams Lake on Tuesday to see them play the Kamloops Storm, doing some content there with the Mustangs. So a pretty quiet week aside from the 2 games for the River Rush in the KIJHL.
Yeah, pretty quiet. Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that trip to go to Williams Lake to catch that game and do the content with the Mustangs. Brendan, how excited are you for it?
Yeah, it's a very good a chance to expand our horizons, add a new partnership, and it's a pretty big deal to have hockey, junior hockey in the Caribou once again with those two teams pretty much side by each.
Well, absolutely, and I know we've talked about how special it is, and I don't know if I want to touch on that a bit more, but I know when we first started Hockey North, one of the big things that we were really wanting to do was to go and travel out to cover games and see the communities and build those connections and relationships. And now with the junior hockey programs, being back in the north with Quesnel and Williams Lake, we now have got that opportunity oh so close. And I mean, it's very exciting, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Turning our attention to the SJHL, a lot of Caribou Cougar content in there as well. Humboldt Broncos played 3 games on the weekend. They were successful in winning 2 of those games. 4-1 win on Saturday against Kindersley. 3-2 overtime loss to the Clippers on the Friday. And an emphatic 7-4 win over the Yorkton Terriers on Sunday. Josh Sale just still stuck on those pair of assists, but Merrick Mamek also becoming a playmaker on that team. Once again, you take a look at Mamek's stat line here. He had a goal and assist against the Terriers. Overall, those were his first 2 points of the season. But you see Merrick Mamek and Josh Sale trying to chip in where they can with the Broncos. Humboldt always up or near the top of the SJHL standings. Owen Wilkinson and Will McKay of the LaRange Ice Wolves were in a couple of battles against the Battleford North Stars over the weekend. LaRange losing 4-3 on Saturday to the Battlefords. Will McKay getting in a pretty good scrap in the Battlefords against one of their opponents. And LaRange trying to climb up the standings, as it were. I know Will McKay has an assist in the league as well as a fight. It was a 17-minute special for Will McKay, just his second game in the SJHL. For Owen Wilkinson, was a Caribou Cougar U18 player last year. 4 games, no points yet, but still trying to find his way. Flin Flon Bombers had an eventful weekend, playing twice against the Weyburn Red Wings, winning 4-2 on Friday, then dropping a 4-2 decision on Saturday to the Estevan Bruins. Reed Arbery in the lineup for both games with the Bombers, so he's still rosterable in the SJHL. In the MJHL, Dikur Moitchin of the Portage Terriers picking up some points. He's now got 5 points in 6 games, 4 of those goals. His last effort for the Portage Terriers was a goal and an assist effort in a 3-2 victory over the Dauphin Kings on Friday. Scott Cousins just limited to 1 game. I would imagine that's due to injury. I've only seen him in the opening night game sheet for the Portage Terriers, so hopefully Scott's back in the lineup soon for Portage. Taking a look at the AJHL, Logan Houck played in one of the 2 games over the weekend for the Drayton Valley Thunder. Played in a 7-3 loss to the Drumheller Dragons. Did not play in Sunday's 3-2 overtime victory over the Canmore Eagles. And the Alberta Collegiate Athletics Conference kicked off their season. And in women's hockey action, Northern Capital graduate Anna Stewart helped backstop the Medicine Hat College Rattlers to a huge 2-1 overtime victory in that game. Also on that team for the Medicine Hat Rattlers is Sage Knorr and Brooklyn Siemens, also Northern Capital graduates. But Anna Stewart, 46 of 47 in that 2-1 victory. Jessa Brewer and Lindsay Gonsalves, members of the St. Trojans, but a huge effort there from Anna Stewart. So congratulations to Anna and the Rattlers for winning their first collegiate game. Red Deer College winning 5-2 over OC in their opener. Cameron Ward with a helper in that game. Also playing in that contest was Penelope Johnson. She was a guest on our podcast last week, so getting an action there. So congratulations to the Red Deer Queens women's hockey team on that. And the St. Trojans exacting revenge on the Rattlers just a night later down in Okotoks, winning 1-0 in overtime as Jessa Brewer assisted on the Sydney Holman goal. So a split on the weekend for the Trojans and the Medicine Hat College Rattlers in the ACAC Conference. The Nate Ooks, which is obviously the team that Abby Bryant plays on along with Keegan Goulet. Their season starts on Thursday, so they'll get into action later this week coming up. So congratulations to those players on a job well done right across the board.
Yeah, a lot of really good things coming from a lot of the alumni here from the Cariboo and Northern Capitals programs. And it's really cool to see that, a lot of them, they go to play for a few different schools, but they still get to play in the same league together, and they still kind of keep that network going as teammates and kind of continuing that journey together, even though they're on different teams.
Yeah, just nice to see all of these Northern Capital Cariboo Cougar connections just sprinkled across all levels of junior or university hockey. And it's just great to see, and a great promotion of the program to see that the development model is working right across the board.
Well, exactly. And I think it's really cool to see, if we can move it, even further back from like the Cariboo Cougars program or the Northern Capitals and take it even further down to the minor hockey associations where each of these players, have grown up in. And, that's really where it all starts. And to see that a lot of these players are coming through and they're going on to pursue their hockey careers still at this point in their life.
Yeah, and they're going to get an education out of it with some obviously assistance. Might not be a full scholarship, but they were recruited to these programs, so they'll get some form of financial aid put towards their studies and such, and they deserve it. They've put in the time and effort since they were kids, and to get to this point is a credit to them and to everybody involved that's helped them along the way. And it's nice to see these kids still playing.
Very well said.
Western Hockey League, Prince George Cougars were finished off their 5-game road trip with 2 games south of the border. A 5-2 victory in Seattle was followed up by a 3-2 loss to the Portland Winterhawks. Pretty successful road trip overall for the Cougars, just their second loss of the season. They're just 1 point out in terms of leading the entire Western Conference. That honor going to Chase Harrington and the Spokane Chiefs, who have now improved to 5-1. They've got, of course, their star player in Berkeley Kattenbach. And right now, some pretty good records right across the board in the Western Conference. But the Cougars pretty much right where they thought they would be. Spokane taking an early step here, and right now they find themselves 1-2.
Yeah, I mean it's a downer for the Cougars as they were tied with Portland there on the road, wrapping up that big road swing. And that late goal that gave Portland the regulation win is a bit of a stinger. But I think overall, the Cougars have looked really, really good. And a lot of adjustments still to be made as, it's only been a couple of games now with both Height and Parasek back in the fold. And this team is still trying to find that chemistry and, but you're seeing a lot of early signs of, continuing right where they left off last year. And I think the unique thing about the Western Conference this year is I don't know if there's really a team that's fully going to run away with it. Like Spokane, you look at where they are right now, a really good start, but they're still a young hockey team, right? There's going to be a point where they're gonna fall off a little bit. They're going to have some rough games, but I think overall they're going to be very, very good. Um, but you look at Kelowna, you look at Vancouver, I guess you could say Portland as well this year, Everett. Um, these teams are very much neck and neck on the depth charts. And I think you're going to see a lot of movement up until the very end in the seedings here in the West.
Yeah, Victoria also 3-1-1 in there. Vancouver splitting a pair of games this weekend. 8-6 over Kamloops, losing 4-3 today. Giants got right on the bus after the game on Friday to head to Calgary, 10-hour trip. Got off to a slow start, got it to 4-3, but no closer. Cameron Schmidt, of course, scoring and getting points in each of those games. He scored on Sunday, got an assist on Friday. You see Caden Brown and the Everett Silvertips. They're 4-1 on the season. So they're right now sitting in third. Of course, Landon DuPont, much a part of that mix, as they're right on their eastern road swing at the moment. Vancouver Giants, of course, starting their Alberta road swing with that 4-3 loss to Calgary. Leighton Feist and the Kamloops Blazers 2-3 0-0 right now. They currently hold on to 8th spot in the Western Conference. I know it's way, way too early to talk about the playoff picture, but we see the jockeying of positioning across the Western Conference. Terrell Goldsmith, who's also part of the Tri-City Americans, they're hovering around the 500 mark right now at 1-2-1. Jaxon, Dikur, and Colton Gerrior, both of Williams Lake, who are going to be our guests on this week's episode. They're 1-4-1. They took one on the chin against Spokane on Saturday, lost, of course, to Prince George on Friday. And a team that's going to be in transition. They got a lot of 07s on that team, Gerrior included, along with Dikur, and it's going to be a baptism by fire on a lot of those nights for not just those two players, but for the rest of that roster.
Yeah, I mean it is such a young roster, and in watching a few of the games over the last week, I don't think there's a lack of talent because there's a lot of those young players play very competitively and they're making plays. But as you said, baptism by fire. It's going to be a lot of, ups and downs. It's going to be taking those, kicks to the chin. But I think overall, it's going to be a promising climb for Seattle over the next couple of years. But, um, this season, I think is going to be one of those years where, they're maybe going to win, 12 to 15 games. And a lot of that is kind of dependent on, what direction they're going to go with Ratzlaff. If Ratzlaff stays for the year, he's going to steal you quite a few games throughout a full season, right? So, maybe that becomes a little bit more wins, but overall, it's going to be a learning season for this young T-Bird squad.
And with that in mind, let's send it over to my interview with none other than Jaxon Dikur and Colton Gerrior of the Seattle Thunderbirds. All right, welcome back to the Hockey North podcast. Here with me now are Jaxon Dikur and Colton Gerrior of Williams Lake, now playing for the Seattle Thunderbirds in the Western Hockey League. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, Colton and Jaxon, the season is in its early stages here with the Thunderbirds as well as the rest of the league. I guess for both of you being rookies right now and in your first full season up to this point, what's been the opening handful of games been like for both of you?
Um, it's just been super, super fast, super electric, I would say. It's been quite the experience for sure.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of good getting here, getting to know how they do everything here, and kind of getting used to the team. It's been a good experience so far.
Colton, you went off to a good start offensively. 2 goals, 1 assist in the 4 games. You had 1 goal as a 15-year-old call-up last year. Can you describe what's allowed you to have the early success so far?
I think kind of just always staying positive, no matter what, and just being confident in myself and that I can like that I'm here for a reason and just to play my game and the goals and stuff will come.
Yeah. How would you best describe yourself as a forward?
I think I'm a big two-way center, but I'm pretty skilled too and like to kind of use my brain in the offensive zone and I think I'm good that way.
Would you say that you're maybe a cerebral player that likes to read the ice and kind of find those soft spots in the defensive coverage, or at least maybe find out who your outlets are before making a decision, whether it's passing or shooting or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, Jaxon, you're one of three goalies on the roster. You've had a couple games already. What's the adjustment been like for you so far?
Uh, just the speed from going from U18 to here has been quite the jump, but it's just been it's just getting used to the speed of play and how hard everyone shoots. Everyone's super strong here, and just to be technical instead of just trying to be big. All the little adjustments mean a lot in this league.
You've talked about your size being 6'6", 6'7" already. Aside from taking up a lot of the net, what do you try to work on technically or positionally to try and make sure that you're in the right spots at the right time?
My footwork, skating, it's always you can never do enough of it. It's always a fundamental and it can always be better. Just being more balanced, faster, more agile. It's just it's a big it's a big topic, but it's one of the most important ones too.
Mhm. Of course, Seattle, a team that's on the younger side now in the midst of a bit of a rebuild. Just 2 years ago now, they had arguably one of the best rosters you could assemble, one game away from winning the Memorial Cup. What's it like now being a part of that come up once again, where there's a lot of '07s, '08s? You're part of another young core that looks to be get on the up and up here in the U.S. division. Is it exciting being a part of that young nucleus that, if you put in the work and you put your time in, you could maybe have similar results in the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's kind of nice being like part of the new generation and like kind of like staying with all these guys for like our whole careers and just like building together and hopefully like once we're older and stuff we can build another team that can win later on.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's the WHL champions, and then they went to the Mem Cup too. Um, just being around like the coaches and GMs and everyone who's been there, they they demand that level of excellence, and it just drives you to push yourself harder and harder every day.
Mhm. Now, you're both from Williams Lake. You both likely grew up together. Uh, what's it like? What's in the water in Williams Lake? There's been so many good players in the minors hockey systems, both male and female, over the past several years, as long as I can remember covering hockey in the Prince George area, going on 9, 10 seasons now. Was it about the minor hockey system that gets so many players to that AAA level and then eventually taking that step up to junior?
Oh yeah, I think it's just like such a hockey community there and everyone's just like so big for the game and loves it so much. So just kind of like I don't know, it just builds everyone as a player and everyone's just trying to get better and kind of take the next step.
Hmm. Yeah, like there's not a whole lot to do in Williams Lake, and it's winter for 8 months of the year. So pretty much everyone skates or has skated. And like Colton said, it's just a hockey community. Everyone loves the game. You walk into the grocery store and you see someone you know and they're, oh, how's your season? And everyone's there for each other and everyone supports everyone.
How did either of you first get involved in hockey? Was it just, parents, family, friends? Was it just obviously it's the thing to do in your community, but how did you first, I guess, what age did either of you first get involved?
I think I was like 4 when I did my first like real like hockey like like I think I started skating around like 2 or something just because like my family played and like but I think the first like directed hockey league or whatever was like 4 years old or something.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I also started when I was young and just playing mini sticks in the playroom with my dad. I just found a love for the game and for competition. And yeah, it's just we played on the same competitive team when you're 4 or 5, and that was that was just our stepping stones just to get our feet wet in the competitive world of hockey, and it was great.
Now, you both played together all the way up in Williams Lake through minor hockey and such, all on the same teams, or maybe opposite sides the odd time or so?
Yeah. Uh
Yeah, I think we've been kind of on the same team like our whole lives together pretty much and like our dads have always kind of been together too, like coaching, so kind of just built a friendship through that.
And how does that close friendship kind of help when you're both drafted to the same organization? You're both playing for the Thunderbirds right now. How much does that help knowing that you have the other person to kind of lean on going through the exact same situation?
yeah, it's huge. It's really nice to have someone that you're close with, someone that you grew up with. Because like moving away from home is hard, but moving out of the country is a whole nother ball game. And having someone that you're friends with and you've already known for most of your life is a really good thing to have.
Yeah, I think it's good to just kind of have someone with you that you're comfortable with and you've known for a while just to like for them to always just be there for you and like you're just there for each other and you can like do it together.
Mhm. What are maybe some of your earliest minor hockey memories, whether it be like winning a provincials or a tournament, or what kind of stuck out to you before, obviously going through, you know, U18, AAA, U15, U16? Any early minor hockey memories that kind of stand out for either of you?
Uh, I gotta think back here. Yeah, any
Um,
memories? Well,
I wouldn't say minor hockey, but playing, there's a kind of a story I always tell, and I was, I started playing hockey as a player, and me and my dad would always play mini sticks, and the net's pretty small. My dad's a grown man, so I could never score on him. One time I just got so mad, I just told him, I'm gonna start playing the goalie. And then I just haven't stopped playing goalie since.
yeah. Uh, it's a good memory when we were younger. I don't know. We played a lot of like spring hockey when you were younger because like we're always just with the same guys. So through the winter we kind of play on the same like minor hockey team. Then during spring and summer we kind of come together again and like we just go to all these t big tournaments down in Vancouver and play all these big teams. Or they're always like changing up their teams and stuff. We always kind of stayed together, just like a core group of guys from Williams Lake. And I think that was always good. Just like winning with that group, it was always special.
Mhm. Uh, just maybe talk about, your journey, Colton, for a minute. You played North Stars Hockey Academy, then Titans Hockey Union to the JPHL, and then you ended up going Burnaby Winter Club before heading to the Thunderbirds. What was it about that option that was maybe a bit more appealing instead of going what is usually the more traditional, we'll say, and going, the Caribou Cougars, which we've seen a lot of other players take that road over the years.
Yeah, I think after that U15 season, I just kind of like my best option was down in Vancouver, and like my agent just thought like that was the best fit for my play style, and like I think it was just kind of like good for me to get used to moving so far away and like kind of being with new people. So I just chose that route and ended up being great.
Mhm. You kind of had a similar path there, Jaxon, except, playing last season with the Caribou Cougars. You were part of an excellent goalie tandem there with Ryder Green, who's now a member of the Prince George Spruce Kings. Just maybe take us through last season, how close the team was to getting to the final, as well as being paired up with another elite goalie in Ryder.
Yeah, Ryder's amazing. I love him. He's so good, and he just he competes so hard every day, and it makes you just want to compete. And through that, we just kind of competed so hard against each other, and then everything else just kind of came with it. And then yeah, the team last year was super close. Everyone was best friends with each other, and we we were a good group last year. We were close to making it to the finals. We just needed that one game, and we didn't end up getting it done, but it was still such a fun year with that group.
Mm. Now, I want to ask you about the save that you had in Kamloops on Friday. It's been
Yeah.
all over the highlight reels. Everybody's seen it. It was a great save on your part. Just take us through that whole sequence there against the Blazers.
Yeah, so they were coming in, was it 3-on-1 or 3-on-2? I can't really remember, but 3-on-1, yeah. So like they came in, they went out to the side, and I thought he was gonna shoot, so I kind of slid over, and then he went back across, and I was so not ready to get back across, but I just couldn't just give up on it. So I like watched it all the way across, and then just tried to get a limb or two out there just to try to get a piece of it, and then he ended up shooting it, and I got a piece of it and saved it, and that was it was pretty cool, I will say.
What was your initial reaction after everything had happened there?
I actually didn't even feel it hit my glove, so I was like, "Oh, it must have gone in." And then I like kind of looked down, and it's in my glove, and I was more surprised with myself than anything. And everyone just kind of came down and gave me a pat on the pads, and I was just trying to stay level because game's not over, still the second period, so you can't get too high. And yeah, it was just surprising and exciting to do that.
But your phone was obviously blowing up after the game.
It was more the next morning.
Oh, okay, okay.
It was a little bit of a later game. Got on the bus right away, and I just slept. So I didn't end up checking my phone until the next morning.
Yeah. Now, Colton, you got called up as a 15-year-old last year.
Yeah.
You scored within those 3 games last season. Take us through your first Western Hockey League goal last season.
Yeah. Obviously, it was a cool experience to get called up, and I was just pretty excited going into the game. I didn't play that much, obviously, because I was a 15-year-old, and it was a close game. But the game was like almost over, and we pulled our goalie, and then they got one, so they just sent like my line out there, and we were just like all looked at each other like, let's just get a goal, might as well. So just off the draw, we just got the puck on net, and I just kind of drove the net, hoping the puck could get there, and just kind of had a wide open net, tapped it in. It's pretty cool though.
Mhm. Of course, another northerner played for Seattle not that long ago, Nico Majadovic. He's going, is trying to stick in San Diego this year with the AHL affiliate of the Ducks. Um, Players like that at all kind of help you or give you some mentorship along the way in terms of like what the expectations are in Seattle and what life as a Western Hockey Leaguer is like?
Yeah, they're all really good here. Like everyone's just trying to help the young guys out and kind of guide them along the way and just help them with anything they need. And I think that's really good for us to kind of just push us through like this first year and kind of like get used to with like their habits and like how the league is here. So I think it's good to have a lot of older leaders like that.
Yeah, like there were some pretty big names here the other year, like Majadovic and Minio and Ratzlaff too. All those guys, they just compete every day, and just to see that and try to make that your everyday normal is something you work for, and you want to be like them. They're NHL drafted, NHL signed, and that's the dream.
Has it been an eye opener moving from a smaller community like Williams Lake to like Seattle, Kent area where it's like this booming metropolis? There's lots of action going on. You've got your team, you've got the Kraken, uh you've got the Seattle Seahawks, you've got the Mariners that just finished up, you've got the WNBA team, you've got Major League Soccer. Even though your season just beginning, like what's it like just being surrounded by all of that?
Um, yeah, it's definitely a sports city and sports area. Everywhere you go, you're driving through town, you see a bumper sticker with the Mariners or Kraken or something on it, and it seems like no matter where you go, there's a fan of something that you could just talk sports with forever, and it's a really cool experience, really good place.
Yeah, I've loved it so far. Like obviously we're not in Seattle, but we're in Kent and like everyone in Kent just knows about the Thunderbirds and everyone's just such a fan and like oh so supporting of us and it's awesome.
Take us through what your typical game day routine is, whether you're at home or on the road.
Yeah, sure you can go.
Okay. Um, yeah, like they're later games than what you're used to in U18 for some of them. So it's like you get a good sleep, you go to bed early, wake up a little bit earlier, not like 4 hours before game time because just be stuck in the mud. Get out, go for a walk, something like that. Come back, do a little bit of mobility, pregame meal, and then you head to the rink, and then you start all your rink stuff like dynamic warm-ups, and for me, throwing balls off the wall and getting some hand-eye, and uh, yeah, and then you hit the ice and you're expected to perform.
Yeah, I like to like in the morning I like to get up pretty early. Like well not I don't want to sleep in all day, just kind of like get up early, have a meal right away, kind of just like feel your body, then probably head to the rink in the morning, just kind of get a stretch in, like tape my sticks, everything, get everything set for later when I come back, and then I'll go home, probably sleep for a bit, then have a pregame meal, and I'll head to the rink probably like 2 to 3 hours before. And then I kind of just like get my legs prepped, like do dynamic, stretch more, tape my sticks, and kind of just get everything ready and like get mentally focused too, and just take some time with myself and just like focus on the game and like what I need to do out there.
Do you either of you have like superstitions or things you must do before a game, otherwise you might feel a bit out of kilter before you step on the ice?
Uh, I wouldn't say superstition, but I like to do some visualization, just kind of like preparing my mind for what's gonna come. But not I wouldn't say I have any superstitions.
Yeah, probably just making like taping my whole stick. I like to have fresh tape on the top and bottom for every game. And then I'll tape it after warm-ups too, so it's fresh for the ice. That's probably the only thing that I kind of like always do every time.
Mhm. I know this isn't necessarily on either one of your players' trajectory here in terms of your career path, but on a more local note, how nice is it to have junior hockey back in Williams Lake with the Mustangs and just having that back after the Stampeders left town in the BCHL several years ago? Obviously, Quesnel has a team an hour and some up the road. What's the excitement been like back home to have junior hockey now in your own backyard with the Mustangs?
Yeah. Um, it's we haven't really been to a game yet, but just preparing like during the summer, everyone's getting ready, everyone's prepping the rink, everyone's doing some upgrades. It was just kind of like the buzz around town. Oh, there's gonna be a hockey team, junior hockey, junior hockey. Seems like everywhere you go, everyone was talking about it, and everyone's just, from what I hear, all the games have been fairly packed, and everyone's supporting it really well.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see like our town finally getting a team and like everyone's just so excited to go and watch and like we've got a few friends on the team I like we've played with, so it's kind of like cool for them to be able to play in front of that crowd and stuff. But so we've heard a lot about it and we've heard it's pretty awesome so far.
And of course, you have Tyrell Lucas, who played in the
Yeah.
Western Hockey League as the head coach and general manager. How well do either of you know Tyrell?
Really well. He
Yep.
was our coach since we were 5, all the way up until we were 14 and 15. So we're we're quite
Yeah.
quite close with Tyrell, and
Yeah, not even just like as a coach, just like as a person, like we're all just like best friends with him and his son Asher. We both know really well. Like all our families are just best friends. So kind of like been like that ever since we were younger and just grown together. So it's good.
And how much did it help aid in your development to have a coach that, played at a lot of the levels that you're trying to get to, not that long ago, and maybe press upon that same knowledge back to you?
Yeah, it's awesome. Just kind of always having one guy there for you. I think it was huge growing up because he knew like what we were capable of and he's obviously been there before. So to kind of for him to just like teach us and like guide us along the way, it was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I all I remember is from the early stages when we were like 5 and 6. Usually that age group of kids playing competitive hockey just kind of run around, chase the puck. But uh, all I remember was us working on like actual systems and stuff, like breakouts and like simple things. But like we were more playing hockey rather than chasing around a puck. It was more structured and more well put together, which instilled a lot of hockey sense, I would say, in us from an early age.
Yeah. Just maybe take me through your favorite um, hockey player or hockey team, or somebody that you try to pattern your game after, past or present.
My favorite team's probably the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just really like Austin Matthews, just kind of the way he plays, just big guy, hard shot, lots of flash, and kind of always wanted to be like him, even if my shot wasn't as good as his or anything, but kind of tried to model my game after him when I was younger, but now that I'm like older, I'm kind of like a little more realistic about who I model my game after and stuff, since obviously I'm not Austin Matthews. So I think like a guy now would be like Dylan Cousins. I think I play a lot like him, just big, big forward, two-way, thinks the game well, smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite team. Sounds weird, but I really like Jake Ottinger. He's a big goalie, and just how he moves and fills space using his size. I'd like to learn that and model myself after that. I also like Bobrovsky. His playoff run was awesome. I really like his feet and his skating. He's very how do I say this? Like technically sound. It's it's something I really want to incorporate in my game, and everyone should incorporate in their game some sort of skating like that.
How long did it take you, Jackson, to get comfortable, carrying around, the big frame, and just terms of like your lateral movements and side to side, and just getting that confidence in terms of like just moving around, with that added height and weight. And I guess you can answer this too, Colton. Like when kids like go through their growth spurt during their youth, sometimes it takes a couple of years to get comfortable to grow into your body and carry that around. How long did it take you, Jackson? And maybe you can answer that as well, Colton, for you as a forward.
Yeah, for me, I've never really had like a growth spurt. I've just been consistently growing throughout the years, and in 2 or 3 inches every single year, it adds up after a while. So I've never really had to deal with a big growth spurt and like figuring out my limbs and stuff. Although last year compared to this year, I would say on the ice, I'm a lot more um put together, not as swingy sway as years previous, just from like starting to slow down growing and starting to fill out, put a little bit of weight on, and just being stronger than years before is the biggest thing for me. Like you can be big, but if you don't have the muscles to move your frame, then what what's the point in having it?
Yeah, same for me. I think kind of last year, like I stopped growing, like I stopped gaining height. So like my body kind of just filled out more. And I kind of just like ever since last year, I've just been getting stronger and like growing wider, kind of just like so. I've been able to move my body a lot better recently. But when I was younger, like I think I was always kind of like bigger, so but it wasn't that hard. But now that like I'm kind of filling out too, I think it's a lot easier and I'm a lot stronger now.
Last question I have for both of you. Obviously, the team goals are the most important in terms of winning and getting better and all that stuff. But individually, what are maybe some of the benchmarks or accomplishments that you want to seek out through now between now and the end of the season with the Thunderbirds?
Um, hmm. That's a good question. I think one of the big things for me is to get a few games in, like to get comfortable with the pace and the shooters and everything to to be more of a goalie in this league rather than just a U18 player that got called up. More be yeah, more just be like be a player, be a competitor in this league, and yeah, just fight in every game and give the team a chance to win.
Oh yeah, obviously this first year, I think I just want to kind of like take in as much stuff from the older guys and gain as much experience as possible. So I'm kind of like prepare myself for next year. Like I think this year is just kind of like the first step of my junior career. So I just want to kind of get ready, get used to it, and like all that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. Uh, Obviously, we're very happy that you're both with the Thunderbirds right now and making your mark. And we'll obviously keep tabs on you throughout the season. And maybe we can do this again in the future.
Yes, for
Sounds
sure.
good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you very much.
All
Bye.
right,
Thank
see
you.
ya.
All right, there you have it. That's our interview for this week. And Colton Gerrior and Jaxon Dikur of the Seattle Thunderbirds. Tyler, both from Williams Lake, both on the WHL roster at the moment. And I think two really good players getting a prime opportunity to show themselves in the Western League. I know it hasn't been as easy for Dicker numbers wise, just due to the youth that's on the Seattle team. Gerrior, of course, close to a point per game right now for the Thunderbirds. But one guy, of course, product of the Caribou Cougar program. The other one went the Canadian Sports School route. Two guys, though, going to get their fair share of ice time and evaluations to be a major part of that Thunderbirds future.
Well, yeah, and like it's one of the beautiful things about having a team that is at this stage of a rebuild is there's a no shortage of opportunity, right? And you're going to have, the opportunity as a young player to, make the most of it and really work for it, and you're going to be rewarded for it, right? And I think you've seen a lot of that with both Gerrior and Dikur. Both guys have, made some big plays and they've come up big for the team that, when the teams needed them to. And I think, those are the results of, the work that you put into it and the dedication you have to your development as an athlete. And I think it's really exciting to see two true Northern athletes putting in that level of dedication and getting the opportunities and seeing results.
Yeah, and of course, there's still a chance Jaxon Dikur might end up with the Caribou U18s if and when Scott Ratzlaff returns to the Seattle Thunderbirds. I can't imagine Seattle wanting to carry three goalies for long. So a chance for Dicker to get even more reps and that much more seasoning, albeit at a lower level if and when that does happen. Selfishly, of course, we would like to see him stick as long as possible with the Thunderbirds program, but the U18 program here in Caribou wouldn't mind having him back either, just given the fact of, he is who he is.
Yeah, I mean he is a game breaker. Having him in the net, that he's going to be probably the best player on the ice, and that doesn't mean your team's playing bad. That just means he's that good, right? And when I look at the quality of the team we have this year with the U18 Caribou Cougars. This is a talented team. Um, they've had some exciting games here early on, and if you can add Jaxon to the fold again this year, you're not going to lose many games, and I think it would be a huge asset. But it is the bittersweet nature of the AAA development at the U18 level. When you have really good players, they don't always come back. When they're eligible, they could still be in your program. When they're that good and the opportunity is there for them to play in junior, often they do go. And I think either way, Jackson's going to be happy. If he gets to stay out in Seattle this year, he gets to go and, shine at that level, get that much, I'd say much needed development and experience as a young goaltender in the Western Hockey League. But, if he gets to come back to U18, play on a really good team, have fun with it this year, see some of his friends on the team and just have that experience and then go on to the next stage next year, I think he's going to be fine with that too. And it's going to be exciting to see where Jaxon goes this year.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. He's kind of in a win-win situation. He's going to get playing time and exposure wherever he goes. So I think it's obviously one of those unique spots where you're going to play somewhere. It's just a matter of what level and by how much.
Oh, exactly right. And anything development wise, there's definitely pros and cons to both, but development isn't always a straight line, and a lot of it is the experience and your attitude and mindset towards the situation as an athlete. And Jaxon, I believe, is in the right spot. He's focused, he's humble, he's modest, and he works extremely hard, and he's a very intelligent young man. So it's definitely you and me having a bit of a bias, covering Caribou over the last season with him here, but you really love to root for guys like that.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, we'll tee up our guests for next week's episode. They are going to be Chilliwack Jets trio and Caribou Cougar grads, Merrick and Jesse Bordeaux, along with Peyton Lake Cote. Chilliwack Jets off to a flying start in the Pacific Junior Hockey League. Jesse Bordeaux, three-star of the week, one of the 3 stars of the week for September 22nd to 30th for the Chilliwack Jets. 8 points in 4 games played over that stretch. Chilliwack, 2 points back of the Ridge Meadows Flames for top spot in the Harold Britton Conference. Chilliwack has a record of 8-1-0. Ridge Meadows has run the table so far at in an undefeated 9-0 at this point. And then you take a look at the Tom Shaw Conference across the way. That's pretty much a group of death in terms of just how spread out it is. Delta, Richmond, White Rock, Port Coquitlam, and the Coastal Tsunami all separated by a grand total of 5 points in that conference. So maybe not the strongest of conferences right now where the Jets are situated, but you got to win your games where you can. And players like Jesse Bordeaux, Peyton Lake Cote, and Merrick Bordeaux getting the job done for Chilliwack.
Yeah, I mean, it's well said on the aspect of you got to win the games where you can, and you can't control the quality of your division, but you still got to win those games. Even the teams that lack the skill, usually they'll still come out and work you down. And those teams that struggle to score, those teams that struggle to make things happen, elite offensively, they need to find ways to win, and that's their whole focus, is to make the opponent's life miserable in those other ways along the wall, try to slow things down, in the middle of the ice. And so you get presented with different challenges from a game perspective when you play a lot of these teams that, you are more skilled than. And so, it's going to be, I think, a different feel for them this year as they play out that division. But, you carry that into the playoff time of season, now you're going to be ready for some gritty hockey. Right. So I think it's going to work out great for their team.
Yeah, Chilliwack, of course, as you mentioned, 1 point back of Ridge Meadows for top spot in their conference. Still lots of hockey to be played, but very promising signs for all 3 of those players as they look to continue on their junior hockey journey, looking to go on the up and up as well. So That was another good chat with those three. Lots of ground to cover, of course, throughout the season with the sports school hockey leagues, Western Hockey League, you name it. Also, want to maybe touch on briefly for a moment Evan Gardner and the Saskatoon Blades. They're 4-1-1 in their first 6 games. Lethbridge 4-1. Miguel Marcus, of course, a member of the Hurricanes there. We haven't really touched on the East too much. And another transaction that occurred over the weekend as well is the Edmonton Oil Kings trading Smith Redmond to Spokane for a conditional draft choice. So Smith Redmond getting a fresh start again with the Chiefs. So maybe a couple of notes on those points too.
Yeah, I mean, it's, very much, Smith's career in the Western Hockey League has been a bit of a suitcase, right? Like, I believe this is his third time being traded in 2 seasons now, and uh, maybe three now. But still, he's a guy where he skates more than well enough to play in the Western Hockey League. He's a bit of a bigger kid, plays a physical game, and I mean, rare at the times that I've seen Smith play at this level, he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. He's one of those guys, he can fill into the bottom six and he competes. And so a really cool opportunity for him now to come play in the Western Conference for the first time, and he's going to be on a very good team, and it's going to be really cool to see how he adapts to that and how he takes advantage of the opportunity.
And Smith did score on the weekend for the Chiefs, so already off to a good start with his new team. And of course, we wish him all the best with Spokane. So that pretty much does it for me on this week's episode of the podcast. Anything else you want to touch on before we sign off?
No, I think that pretty much covers it for this week of the Hockey North podcast. But just a reminder to stay tuned for some of our social media content as we make a trip out to Williams Lake in a couple of days here. And just continue to support our podcast and you share with all of your friends. As I know, in the hockey community, everyone here in the North cares so much about the athletes and the hockey community here. And you want to make sure that we're getting a lot of these updates and a lot of the latest of our athletes out to more people.
Very well said. So I think that'll do it here for another week of the Hockey North podcast. For my co-host, Tyler Lizotte, this is Brendan Paulus saying good night here from the Hockey North podcast.